This is how The Dark Knight changed my life. So as a kid growing up, just like a lot of other kids, is that, you gravitate towards the superheroes, towards the Spider-Mans, Batmans, all that stuff. And, you're having fun with them and the shows and playing with the toys and all that stuff. And I was like any other kid. And then X-Men came out, and I liked that. I thought that was cool. And then Spider-Man comes out, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. And that's when I was like, okay, this is pretty sweet. Because you're finally reaching a point where the CGI is good enough to make it believable. And that was like one of the first comic book movies where it was like, wow, I think I really dig this genre. And then I guess some other X-Men movies came out here or there. And there was always the Batman movies from the 90s. But, yeah, again, I liked them when I was a kid. But they didn't really stick out in my mind as I was getting older. And then all of a sudden, in 2005, comes The Batman Begins. I'll never forget watching the trailer for that movie, because I never knew what Batman's origin story was, to be honest, until that movie, to be honest with you. I'm watching the trailer and I'm like, what is this, like a ninja movie or something? Because you see him like training and everything, and I'm like, what is going on? And then eventually it turns into, you see him becoming Batman. I'm like, whoa, I definitely have to check this out. I watched Batman Begins, was blown away because it was like something I've never seen before. You go from the Val Kilmer Batman, George Clooney Batman, to this, it's like two different worlds. Right there I was like, I don't know what this guy did. I don't know what Christopher Nolan did, but this movie was great. Then a couple years go by, 2008. Then they released The Dark Knight Rises. And wow. I mean, that, to this day, that is the #1 comic book movie of all time. I believe most people would agree with me. I don't care if you're DC or Marvel. Just what that movie did, and this just goes to show you how good of a director Christopher Nolan is. I mean, this guy doesn't make a bad film. That movie was so amazing, and then to top it off, one of the greatest performances of all time for a villain in Heath Ledger's Joker. It was just the perfect combination. That was when, right there and then, I was like, I am a Batman fan. That was like set in stone right there and then. Like, I used to be a big Spider-Man fan. I still am, but not as much as I used to be. But right there and then, I was like, this is my guy. Right here. Batman's my dude. Then to cap it off, he comes back with The Dark Knight Rises. I mean, the trilogy, it's just damn near perfect. If you come to me and ask me what a perfect movie is, I will tell you The Dark Knight. I can watch all three of those movies whenever. Of course, my favorite of the three is The Dark Knight, but they're Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises. They're all three of them are great movies, and that's when it really hit home for me that, wow, DC, that's where I want to be. DC, like, again, I respect the Marvel characters and all that, and I enjoy the movies, but when it comes to DC properties, they are just a step above. And I don't care what anyone says. This is my personal opinion. You're talking about Batman and Superman. And then just to continue off of The Dark Knight, that trilogy, then you get The Man of Steel. And it's just like, oh my God. Greatest Superman movie of all time. And then after that you get BVS. And this is why I hold the DC so near and dear to my heart, and this is why I have the DC News exclusives. Is because The Dark Knight, damn Christopher Nolan, ruined me. He didn't ruin me, but I find an escape in these movies, and that's why I love film, and I think that's why a lot of other people love film, is because you feel like there's an escape. You watch these movies, and there's these worlds that you never thought they're not real, but you're imagining yourself in that world. You're watching, and you're so invested in these characters and in these environments and these storylines. and it just blows you away. And this is why The Dark Knight changed my life, because if it wasn't for that, I'm not sure if I would be a real big comic book fan, if I would be a big Batman fan, or still be so interested in the DC EU now, if you want to call it that. So that's why The Dark Knight changed my life, and I'm sure it changed a lot of other people's lives too. It's a great piece of film. I mean, I just cannot say enough good things about it. The visuals, there's barely any CGI. That's what I love about Christopher Nolan, is he does a lot of practical effects. But to the contrary, you've got Zack Snyder who does a lot of CGI, but Zack Snyder's visuals are off the charts. When he does CGI, he does it right. It looks amazing. What I love about Zack's CGI is it seems like it's more background, not characters. A lot of times when you CGI the characters and all that, it's like, you know, the last Spider-Man movie, Far From Home, they were CGIing the hell out of him. And it just, you can tell, and it just doesn't, you know, the environments are one thing, the backgrounds are one thing, but when you're doing everything, the backgrounds, the character, it just gets really messy. But anyway, kind of going off the rails right now. That is why The Dark Knight has changed my life, and is my favorite movie of all time, and probably will continue to be my favorite movie of all time until something else changes my mind. But anyway, leave a comment below. What do you guys think? You know, is The Dark Knight one of your top movies? Is it not? What's your favorite DC movie? And please subscribe, because that helps me, and in return I can help you. And again, as always, thank you for watching.